What's going on, guys? This is Hostile Q&A number 4, and I am happy to be back with you guys. I got a ton of questions from Instagram, and I'm going to try and get through as many of them as I can. Again, this is probably going to be a 2-parter, maybe 3. The timestamps will be in the description, so if you have, if you don't want to watch the whole video and you just have certain things you want to see, you can just check out the description and click the timestamp to take you to whatever question you want answered. Before we go, though, I want to say thank you all very much for the support and the shares on Instagram, and those the new subscribers that are on board and all that. Those of you who are watching who haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It helps me know that I should keep doing this when more people kind of click on and come on board, because then I know people are interested and they're happy with what I'm doing. And that's exactly what all the shares and the DMs and the different messages I'm getting from you guys is doing as well. So I appreciate the love. I'm happy doing this as long as you guys are happy with the videos we're putting out. And I'm pretty sure Luke feels the same way. Also, some of the other guys I've had on the podcast, Justin Compton said he's gotten a great response from it as well. So did Brandon Curry, John De La Rosa, Ron Pardello. Everybody's been really happy with the response they've gotten from the podcast. So I have some new guests coming, people that you're going to enjoy and are very knowledgeable as well. So I look forward to any new subscribers, the old subscribers, and anybody who messages me to say thank you. If I don't get to your message, thank you in advance. With that being said, let's get to the questions because there are a lot of them. So here we go. Dalton71 says, do you recommend cardio before or after your workout when cutting, and why? I recommend cardio split off from my training. So if I'm doing one cardio session a day and one training session a day, I try not to do them together. And look, whether you're going to say, I'm going to give you guys my experiences and what I believe, and I'm sure there's going to be people who dispute my opinion, but all these are just my opinions. Okay. I'm trying to save as much muscle as possible. So I don't want to be in the gym longer than I have to be. I don't want to take too long without eating or any of that kind of thing. So I get up in the morning, I'll do my fasted cardio because I believe it's a little bit better for burning fat. Maybe, I don't know. Some studies say that it doesn't really matter, but I like doing fasted cardio just for my mental state. It's kind of clears my mind in the morning to get up and get it done on an empty stomach. So I do my cardio split off from my training, and then I go back after 2 or 3 meals, and I'll do my weight training session then. Now, if you can't do that because you have a full-time job or you have kids or whatever, you have to do it all at once. I would never do cardio before a workout. And the reason why, whether I was cutting or not, I would never do cardio before a workout. And the reason why is you do not want to burn valuable glycogen stores doing cardio when you need those to be weight training. So for those of you who don't know, really quickly, when you eat carbs, your body stores that energy as glycogen in the muscle. And we use that glycogen, that energy that's in the muscle, to lift weight. I mean, that's what gives us our explosive energy, right? So you don't want to burn off all that glycogen doing the treadmill and then go try and weight train with less glycogen than you want. The whole point is to be in the gym and have an optimal amount of glycogen stored up and ready to go and ready to use, so that when you train, you can train optimally. So cardio always after weight training, never before. Mirko Dieso says, what do you think is the best optimal volume? We're going to skip that question because I don't know what optimal volume you're talking about. Jay Schelling, hey Fouad, what has been your most memorable competition ever and why? This is a pretty easy one. My first IFBB win was my most memorable, and I would have to say it was because it came like almost 10 years after turning pro. I came close so many times. I have a lot of second places. I have a lot of third places. There was a couple shows I know I should have won that I was in second place. There was one show in 2009 that Dennis James even told me after the fact. I saw him at an expo, and I said, I should have won that show. I think it was a 2009 Tampa Bay. I came in second, and Dennis James won that show. And he actually agreed with me. He's like, yeah, I know you probably had that one. And so did his coach at the time, George Farah. So I should have, things happen. And I rolled with it. I didn't care. I just kept going, and I kept competing, and I kept doing my thing. But it was long after that, like that was in 2009. I had a couple more close calls. It wasn't until 2015 that I got my first pro win, and it was huge. It was a big, big deal for me. I mean, I broke down and cried on stage. So, yeah, there isn't really anything that's going to top that. My first show ever was pretty cool, because, you know, it was such a brand new thing, and I was in my hometown, and my whole family and friends and everybody was in the audience, and, you know, that was pretty crazy. But I don't think anything will ever top your first pro win, unless you go on to bigger and better things. And I haven't won an Arnold or an Olympia, so it's going to be my first pro win was my highlight of my career so far. Ricardo Valentino says, are there any ways to tell if you have good potential to be a bodybuilder before you start any training? This is a great question, because, I mean, there are some telltale signs, right? If you have wide clavicles, if you have, you know, narrow hips, you're probably going to have a narrow waist. There are some signs that are going to point to that. But if you haven't built any muscle, you don't really know. There are guys that don't have great structure that have become amazing bodybuilders. I mean, look at, like we said, okay, you want wide clavicles. Look at Phil Heath. Phil Heath doesn't have wide clavicles. And he doesn't have especially narrow hips, but he became a 7-time Mr. Olympia. So my point to you is, I don't know if you can really tell until you get into it. And that's, you know, you guys, I don't know how many of you follow me on Instagram. I mean, obviously the questions are coming from Instagram, so I'm hoping you do. But those of you who don't, my hashtag and kind of the saying that's on a lot of my clothing and everything is sacrifice without regret. And what that means is you are sacrificing for a goal with no regret afterwards, regardless of the outcome. So the reason I live by that is when you start bodybuilding, you have no idea what you're going to look like, really. You have maybe some small idea, but you don't really know. You don't know how your body's going to react. You don't know how big you're going to get. You don't know how well your body's going to respond to the training, the food, the drugs, the whatever it is. You don't know. You don't know. You just don't know what's going to happen until you're kind of well into it. Like when I started, I had no idea what I could be. And even halfway through my career, people were like, well, you kind of have more of an athletic body. It's like, it's not really like, you're not a mass guy. And at the time, Mass Monsters were winning all the shows. I just pushed and pushed and pushed until I became a bigger guy. But I didn't know. Like, there was no signs like before I started. So like, if you're asking like, well, how do I know if I'm going to be good so I don't waste my time? You don't know. And it's not something you would do anyway, unless you really want to do it. Because, I mean, why would you ask that? Because if you're going to bodybuild, you're doing it because you love it. You're not doing it for girls, because girls don't like massive guys. You're not doing it for money, because there's not a ton of money in bodybuilding unless you go out and fucking bust your ass. So the only other reason you would want to become a pro bodybuilder is because you love it. So if you love it, just do it anyway. And you'll see halfway through, you'll see after a couple of years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you'll be like, okay, you know what? I think I have something here that's pretty special. But it's not one of those sports that you'll know before building a certain amount of mass, like what you're really going to look like. I mean, even if you look at some great bodybuilders, and they're very, I'll use myself, not that I'm a great bodybuilder, but if you look at my very first photo ever, I posted it on Instagram. I took a photo the day I decided to bodybuild. It was like May 21st, 2000. And I look like shit. But if I look back at it now, you can see like an outline of a chest, and you can see some traps and shit, like some of those telltale things that I have now. And I wouldn't have known that then, though. Like that day when I took the photo, I didn't look in the mirror and go, yeah, look, there's some chest and there's some traps. And I didn't know shit. I was like, look at this fucking beanpole. It took 2-3 years before I was like, you know what? I got a pretty good base. But even after I thought I had a really good base, I still didn't know if I was good enough to be like IFBB level. It took a few, 2, maybe 3 more years after that before I was like, you know what? I can be that big. So like I started in 2000. I didn't really believe I could be a good pro till about 2005. So there's a 5-year gap there where it was just belief in myself, but not actually any proof. So you can't guess. If you're going to bodybuild, you're going to bodybuild because you love it and you're going to sacrifice without regret. And if you suck, you're going to have no regrets because you did it because you loved it. That's the meaning of it, right? Sudem Shu. Opinion on carb cycling while lean bulking. I think it's actually a pretty amazing way to lean bulk. If you're the kind of person that does not want to get fat at all while still putting on weight, I think that carb cycling is the best option because you can set up your days in a way where on your hard days, like on a leg day and a back day, you can go super high carbs, right? 6, 7, 800 grams, depending on your weight. And then on the days off, you have a couple of days off a week, you can drop them to like 150. But I think you can still grow that way because you're still feeding the muscle when it needs to be fed and you still have a surplus on some days. And even on the days where you don't have a surplus based on carbs, you still might have a surplus based on fats. So I think carb cycling is a really, really good way to grow without becoming carb saturated or insulin resistant, I guess is another way to say that. But I say carb saturated because sometimes you can eat carbs and so your pump just is not there. And it's because you're not insulin sensitive anymore. You become insulin resistant. So I think carb cycling is a good way to remain insulin sensitive and also a way to keep yourself from getting too fat. So yeah, carb cycling is definitely my go-to if I'm really worried about trying to maintain a certain body composition. Wassimo17 says, do you recommend fasted cardio on leg day when cutting? No. Whether I'm cutting or whether I'm in the off season on my quad day, because I have a hamstring and a quad day. In the off season, I may take off the morning after legs and the morning of legs of my quad day. Actually, in fact, I trained hamstrings yesterday and I took cardio off this morning. So in the off season, if my legs are sore or if it's the day of quads, I won't go do cardio. Now I'm not talking a little sore. I mean like the next day when they're like shitty, I might take that morning off, even though I actually believe that some cardio will alleviate the soreness and get you recovering faster, but not right away. But based on your exact question, no, on quad day, or like if you have a full leg day, whether I'm dieting or in the off season, I don't do cardio on leg day. Next question is from Peter Pleth. Any advice on how to start a whole year off? Got my last contest at Nationals this October. Next competition is first planned 2021. Do you go extra slow from the deficit? Well, knowing you got a minimum of 12 months to grow. For those of you who are wondering, this is Mio. It's just water with Mio. Mio is like a flavoring thing, if you don't know. Anyway, Peter Pleth, no, I don't believe in going slow. I know what you're talking about is a reverse diet because you have 12 months to grow. So if I have 12 months, I'm just going to increase my calorie by like 100 calories a week and take forever to get back to like 5,000 calories. No. If you're asking me how I do it, as soon as my fucking show is done, I'm eating a full off-season diet. I don't care if I get a little chubby. I don't care if I get watery. I'm going right at, I'm going to calculate my calories and I'm going to add, 300 to 500 calories for a surplus. And that's my starting point. And I'm going to go hard because that 12 months, it's going to go really fast. So, and plus 3 or 4 of those months might be dieting months. So you might only have 8 or 9 months. But even if you have 12 months to grow, it's going to go by really fast. And you're going to look back at your off season and go, what the fuck did I do? Did I put on any muscle? Am I actually bigger? Did I just eat a fucking ton of food and nothing happened? Use every single month. I mean, why? Why would you go slow anyway? What is your goal? Only to put on 5 pounds? If you can put on 10 pounds, why not? If you can put on 15, why not? Use every day that you have. So in my opinion, get yourself into a surplus right away and feed the muscle and get your ass to work and use all 12 months to the fullest of your capabilities and get to the size that you want to get to, make the gains that you want to make, and don't just take your time because you have 12 months. It's not a good way to look at it. Dr. Size, what are your thoughts on SARMs and MK677? So I've done a little research on SARMs. I've actually tried them myself. This is what I think. And it might be a premature opinion, but just based on my trials and what I've read about them, I think SARMs are good if you're natural and you're ready to take kind of a little step, but you don't want to go all the way to the dark side. I think you'll get a benefit from SARMs that way. I think if you've already been to the dark side and you've been there for a while or even a little while, you're probably not going to feel what you want to feel. It might just be you might feel something originally because it's placebo. I've been doing this so long that I don't get placebo. I wait for an actual feeling. I didn't get anything from it personally. I didn't feel like it was great. The only place I feel like it could fit if you are using PEDs or using gear is if you're one of these guys that bridges, right? If you're like, okay, I did a cycle, I'm going to bridge to the next cycle, so you lower your doses pretty low. I feel like you could probably add SARMs there and it might give you a benefit. But personally, I don't use them. The only thing I have heard is MK677 helps with appetite. So I know some guys, I don't want to name any coaches' names, but I have heard some coaches recommend taking MK677 before bed to help appetite. I tried it, didn't notice too much, but my appetite's pretty good anyway, usually. So like I said, I personally don't notice anything. The only thing I have noticed, actually, the only thing I did, and it wasn't something I felt, but the only thing I did get some good information from Jordan Peters about carnitine and cholesterol and helping lower your cholesterol. So that might be a benefit, but I'm talking about the muscle benefits, like gaining muscle and how they work. I feel like if you're a natural guy that wants to try something, that might be the route you go. But I feel like if you're already using steroids, you're probably not going to feel the benefit that you've been promised. Full Tilt Physique says, hey, Fouad, kudos again on all the great work. Blah, 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 blah. I don't want to bore you guys with that, but thank you. What are some techniques you use to volumize food? I'm in the off season and eating clean in large amounts, but still hungry and terrified to gain fat, but still want to put on muscle, obviously. This is where the numbers come into play. So if you have a huge appetite and you can just keep eating and eating and eating, first of all, don't be scared to get fat because fat doesn't happen overnight. Like I woke up fat one day, but it was after like a whole off season of eating a lot of shit. My wife looked at me and she's like, I can see dimples in your ass, man. I think you've gone a little too far. You know, at that point you're like, okay, I better back off the calories a little bit, right? So you're not just going to wake up fat one day, like overnight. It's going to be something that accumulated over time. So don't be worried about getting fat, number one. But number two, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Okay, this is what I was going to say. I'm sorry. If you don't want to, if you're one of these people that have a crazy appetite and you're trying to figure out where to start and where to stop, figure out the numbers. This is all partial, like a lot of this is experience, but a lot of it's science too, right? So I talked about this in my last Q&A. Go to Google, type in William Harris, the Harris-Benedict equation. It will give you the equation needed to figure out your daily calories for your daily caloric needs, right? So if it says you need 3,000 calories a day or 4,000 calories a day or whatever, after you plug in your body weight and all that shit, plus your physical expenditures, then just increase it by 500 calories. And then you're like, okay, well, this equation says I need 4,000 calories. I'm eating 4,500 calories. If I start getting too fat, I will drop it to 4,300 calories, or I'll drop it to 3,800 calories until I feel good about myself again. and then I'll raise it back up. You don't have to guess. You know what I mean? Or if you don't even want to go that far, find out your macros that you're eating right now. Okay, right now I'm eating 300 grams of protein. I'm eating 500 grams of carbs. I'm eating 150 grams of fat. Okay, those are your macros. If you feel like you're getting fat, drop your fats a little bit, right? Go from 150 to 130, or drop your carbs a little bit. Go from 500 grams to 400 grams. See how you feel. Like, if you don't want to do the scientific approach or the exact numbers, you got to know the exact numbers of something. So if you don't want to know the exact numbers of calories, you don't want to count calories, find out the exact calorie or the exact numbers in your macros and count your macros. And then keep a logbook and go, okay, when I was eating 300 grams of protein, 500 grams of carbs, and 150 grams of fat, I was gaining too much fat. I started to get really soft. So this month I'm going to do whatever, blah, 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 and reduce it a little bit. And then see how you look. So it's all, if you're not going to go the completely scientific route where you figure out the exact numbers, then it's kind of an experiment. Just experiment every couple weeks. Take a look at yourself. Take photos. Every Saturday, take photos. Weigh yourself. Okay, this week I gained 7 pounds and I look like a bag of shit. Next week, I don't want to gain that much. I only want to gain a pound a week, 2 pounds a week. And keep an eye on the photos. Wow, these photos are starting to get really soft. Maybe I need to back off the calories a little bit. It's not that hard, man. You have to work harder at knowing what's going in your body. Once you know that, then you can figure it all out. The problem a lot of people run into that I talk to is they don't know what the fuck they're eating. Sure, the intermediate or advanced bodybuilders do. I'm talking about guys who are starting out or people that aren't even bodybuilders, but they just love to train. And you can't figure out why they can't learn their body composition. It's because they don't know what they're eating. I don't know how many grams of protein I'm eating. I don't know how many grams of carbs I'm eating. If you don't know what you're eating, you can never figure out how to fix it. You have to know exactly what's going into your mouth before you learn how to fix what your body looks like. Okay, so it's not a guessing game. You figure out the numbers and you experiment from there based on how you look. And that way you'll know, okay, I know when I eat this much, I start getting fat. I know when I eat this much, I'm not fat, but I'm growing at a good enough rate that I'm happy with my body composition. I know when I eat this much, my pumps disappear and I lose weight, but I don't feel as good in the gym. So, okay, this is the sweet spot. That's what you got to do. And then you got it all figured out. Okay, Max Merrick says, what's your thoughts on the negative effects of social media has brought to the bodybuilding and fitness world? Also, what are some of the positives? Okay. Aside from what a lot of you might think, I love social media. I may bitch about it, but I love being able to be connected to everybody either through this or through Instagram or whatever, and be able to respond to people and like get an exact pulse on how everybody thinks and feels about a certain thing. So I think Instagram is great because you can say, hey, I tried this new product. What do you guys think about it? And people will be like, I don't know, but I'm going to try it too. But then they'll give you the feedback. So you can get this, or I tried this exercise. What do you guys think about it? Hey, I'm going to try that too. Or I've used that before. It's an awesome exercise, blah, blah, blah. Like there's a lot of community connection, especially in bodybuilding, right? Like, oh, I've done that exercise before. You should try it with this or supersetted with that or this. There's a lot of good stuff that comes out of being so connected. That's just one aspect. There's financial aspects that help too. I can monetize knowledge. You know, I can give back to you guys, but I can receive something for my effort, which wasn't possible before. I couldn't reach 20,000 people or 40,000 people or 300,000 people or whatever. I couldn't reach all those people. So there's a lot of benefits to social media. There's definitely more, I think, positives than negatives. The negatives, even though I think they're fewer, they're kind of harsh. One of the main negatives is, I think psychologically it starts to fuck with you. And it doesn't matter if you're a celebrity or you're a nobody. It doesn't matter. If you start to get focused on numbers. How many people like this thing? How many people like this photo? How many people like this video? How popular am I? How many followers do I have? I think that shit wreaks havoc on your fucking, on the way you feel and the way you think. And it's important to step away. And if you can't step away, it starts to really fuck with you. So I think mental health wise, it could be an issue if you let it consume you. The other negative effect I feel is there's a place for shitheads. Before social media, if you were a shithead, you'd just be driving around in your car fucking hating everybody, but nobody gave a shit because it couldn't hear your voice. Nobody knew that you were an asshole. You just drove around and hated everybody and nobody fucking cared because nobody knew. Now, if you're an asshole, everybody knows it. You can tell everybody. You can tell everybody. You can be the biggest fucking dick on earth and you can go on everybody's social media, or, hey, you know what? I'm not going to use any names, but you can start your own group. And it can be an asshole group where you just sit and you spew lies and spew bullshit and make up shit. And you have a whole network of people that feel the same way you do. And you're all just assholes together. And you're all spewing the same. It's like a circle jerk of like just bad information. So it can be bad too. But I choose to live my life in a more positive way. I wasn't always this way. I'm still not. I'm trying to learn how to be. So I try not to see those people. I just block them and I move on with my life. I choose to see the positive side of social media, which is I can answer 120 questions and 10,000 people are going to watch this and be like, that's pretty good. You know, I learned something from that. Well, that makes me feel good that, you know, 1,000 people or 5,000 people or 10,000 people could watch this and benefit from it in their own training. Whereas before social media, a bodybuilder might do a seminar for 500 people 3 or 4 times a year. Now I can connect with 500 people this afternoon. I can do it tomorrow afternoon and the next day and the next day. So I feel like there's a really big benefit to social media, and is for all the bitching that we do about it, I would definitely rather have it than not. Julia331 says, hi, Fouad. I'm a huge fan of the podcast. Could you talk about not placing well at national shows? I got last call-outs twice, but my physique has improved each time. How do I move forward with this failure? Julia, losing sucks. And everybody wants to stand in the winner's circle, or they want to be close to the winner's circle, second, third. Everybody wants to be rewarded for their hard work. It doesn't always happen. I remember busting my ass one year and getting on stage in Dallas, I believe. And I took third at the show, and I was pretty happy. I think I took fourth, and I was pretty happy, but I wanted my Olympia qualification. And at the time, you could qualify by being in the top 3. You didn't have to win a show. So I went on to Tampa Bay the next week. First call out, nothing. Second call out, nothing. Third call out, I finally hear my name. I'm like, what the fuck? I was in the first call out last week. It was mind blowing to me. It was a week later, and it was like the same guys. So I don't know if it's a judging thing or whatever, but it was a horrible feeling to think all of a sudden I was in the last call out and I wasn't good enough to be standing up here. It can be devastating, especially when you feel like you've done everything you can do. But there's a couple things I have to say. One, you have not done everything you can do. I know that because every time in my career I thought I did everything I could do, the next year I found a way to work harder. And it's consistently happened. Even now it's happening. Even now, after 20 years, every year I prep, or every year of my career, I find a way to do something new that will make me better. So you're not working as hard as you can work, even though you think you are. You can probably do more. That's not always the answer. I'm not saying you're not working hard. So that's not always the answer, but I'm just telling you that there is always more you can do. So don't ever think that I did everything possible. If you did, let's say you did. A physique takes time to develop. So from your question, I'm guessing that you're relatively new, maybe 2, 3, 4 years in. That's not enough time. Like it took me, okay, I won my first 2 shows, right? No big deal. They're like local, regional. When I got to national level, I took 5th my first nationals, which I don't know, it was not bad. There was 20 guys. It was still in the top 5, but I wanted to be first. And but I looked around and there was a big gap. Even though I was 5th, there was a big gap between me and the guy who won the whole show. And the guy who won that whole show was Frank McGrath. And that show, I was like, holy fuck, that guy is ready to stand on a pro stage. I am nowhere near a pro stage. Even though I was 5th, I was only 205 pounds. If I stepped on a pro stage, I would look like somebody that walked out of the crowd and put my underwear on and stood up there. It wouldn't even look like I belong there. So what you have to ask yourself is, it may be devastating that you were last or second last or whatever, or second call out or whatever it was. However, you didn't do as well as you wanted to. It might be devastating, but you have to ask yourself, is my physique, and you have to be honest with yourself when you look at these things. Like when you look at your structure, when you look at the muscle you've built, when you look at everything as a whole, you have to ask yourself, whether I won or lost is relevant, but not as relevant as, am I ready to be a pro? Because that's a national stage you're on. So what they're looking for is, can this person that we're going to give the victory to stand on a pro stage? And you have to ask yourself, am I ready to stand on a pro stage? If you look at yourself and you can honestly say, honestly, and I don't mean you have yes men around you also agreeing with you, whatever. You have people that are very objective with you, and you can be very objective with yourself. If you can look at yourself and say, yeah, you know what? This is pro caliber. I could stand with any of those people in the pros, and I could definitely be a pro with this physique that I built. If you can say that, then yeah, you have a right to be devastated that maybe you didn't get the look you wanted. Maybe they didn't see you. Maybe there's a lot of competitors in the show, and sometimes they hurry through things and they miss certain people. Those things are all possible. The way I got through things, I'll tell you the truth. It always hurts. It never feels good. When I was younger, it hurt more. When I was younger and I didn't do well, I cried. My first show that I didn't win was the third show I did was a provincial qualifier. I had won the first 2 shows. This was the third show. I took 3rd. I went backstage. I cried like a baby, like a fucking baby. And then later on in my career, 2008, I believe, I thought I looked great at a show, and I ended up placing 7th, I think. But it was before I even knew my placing. After prejudging, I think I was in the 3rd call out. I walked outside with my wife and I wept because I was like, why was I in the 3rd call out? I know I should have been the first call out. But it was a 2-day show. I put my fucking trunks on the next day. I went back and I did my routine and I did what I had to do. Look, there's a lot of emotion in this sport. Okay. Emotions are going to run high, and there's a lot of opinions in this sport. Your belief may not be the next guy's belief, may not be the judge's belief. At the end of the day, your feelings don't matter. My feelings didn't matter. At the end of the day, what matters is, okay, that's what happened. Why did it happen? Is it because my physique isn't good enough? Is it because my physique is good enough, but I don't know the right people? Is it because maybe I'm not working with the right coach and I didn't get looked at the way I wanted to? I mean, all these things, I'm not saying these are the reasons. I'm not saying that stuff happens, but these are things that go through my mind. Is it because that judge didn't like me and I should just do another show for a different panel of judges? Is it because there was 600 competitors in the show and they were going really fast and I got overlooked? I mean, all of these things are possible, but the point I'm trying to make is you just keep going. It doesn't matter. Because even if let's say you turn pro, right? It's a whole new fucking world. I remember feeling like king shit when I turned pro. I had won like my class. That was the third time I had won my class when I got my pro card. I'm like, yeah, I'm the fucking man, right? You step onto a pro stage and you're like, I'm nobody. It's all brand new. You start at the very bottom again, unless you're a freak, and then you just kind of come in and you win your pro debut and you fucking go on, right? But for most of us, you reach a point where you're like great as an amateur, and then you go way to the bottom and you start all over again, try and climb that ladder. So you have to be able to be honest with yourself. And what I'm trying to say is, even if you turn pro, you're going back to square one and you're going to start losing again. And you have to learn to lose. You don't have to like losing. You don't have to want to lose. You don't have to appreciate losing. You don't have to be like, I don't care that you don't have to be indifferent to it. You can give a shit. I hate losing, but I learned how to lose, unfortunately. Like, and what I mean by that is, learning to lose means not letting it cripple you. It means you have to wake up the next day and go, am I doing this because I want to win and be famous and be popular and be this, or am I doing this because I love it? So when I lose, I wake up the next day and I go, okay, what can I do to be better? Do they want more back? Do they want more legs? Do they want more arms? Do they want me to be more shredded? Do I have to increase my popularity so that people look, so I get a better look by the judges because they kind of already know who I am when I get there? Like, I think of everything the next day that I could do to be a better bodybuilder. And then I start putting a fucking plan together and I get back to work because there's pain there and the pain doesn't go away. And I realized this a long time ago. I thought I could, there was a show I got crushed at and I was like, I knew I should have done better. And I think I was fourth or something like that. I knew I should have been second. I was pissed off. I was furious. And I woke up the next day after the show and I'm like, I don't care. Fuck it. Who cares? I don't give a shit. I'm just going to go back to work. And I went back to work and I went back to training. And I realized like 2 months later, I was still pissed off, but I had been ignoring it by training. But what I was doing was using the training as therapy. It was like getting me through my pain, right? Because another month after that, I didn't care anymore. I was on to like a good off season. I had been training already for 2 months. I was into the third now, and my pain had gone away. The anger of not winning or not taking second or not being placed where I wanted to place had disappeared. So my advice to you is wake up, assess the problem, figure out what they liked or didn't like. I don't mean ask the judges, because you're not, man, half the time the judges aren't going to remember who you are. They've seen so many people that fucking day. They're going to give you some answer that might be too vague, that you don't get anything from, right? You have to look at yourself and put the picture of like the Miss Olympia for figure or bikini. I'm not sure what class you're in, but put that on your fucking fridge and stand next to it and take a photo and then go, okay, what am I missing compared to this person? And then take the time to build your physique to as close as that person is. But you're going to hurt. It's going to hurt. You're not going to ever lose and wake up and feel good. You're like, okay, I lost. Even if you fucking did awesome and you were like, man, even my first, 2005, no, 2004. 2004, I win the heavyweight class at the Nationals. I was fifth the year before. Nobody expected me to win. Came in and win the heavyweight class. They only gave away one pro card. They gave it to the super heavyweight. Well, do you think I was happy that I won? Or do you think I was upset? A real competitor kind of is never happy, to be honest with you, right? Like, I bet you could even talk to some Mr. Olympias that are like, yeah, it was cool. I was happy for a couple days, but I got back to work right away because I want to win the next one. It's like, even when I won, because I didn't win my pro card, I wasn't happy. I kind of was like, okay, that's cool. I won the heavyweight class, but I want more. I want the top spot. So anyway, this is a long answer and I apologize for dragging it on, but what I'm trying to say is you just have to keep going. Okay. To simplify it, that's what I'm trying to say. You are going to lose shows. You are going to feel slighted at times where you should have placed somewhere you shouldn't have, or vice versa, whatever. But what I'm trying to say is you have to look at yourself honestly and don't have a bunch of yes people around you and go, okay, it hurts to say this, but I need XYZ. And that's why I didn't win. There's always a reason. There's always a reason. And if there isn't, it doesn't fucking matter. Get back on your horse and just do the work. And it will come to you. Like, good things come to people who work hard, in my opinion. So if you love it, just keep plugging away, get back on stage, figure out what you did wrong, and you improve on it the next time. Sheldon Rive says, when you switch your foods to see what works best for you, how long does it take to notice if it's right for you or not? Days or weeks? Depends how much shit you've been eating. If you've been eating a lot of crappy food, then it's going to take time for you. And then let's say you're eating a lot of crappy food and you switch to clean food. It's going to take time for your body to get rid of all the crappy food, the inflammation in your stomach to go down, and for you to really feel a difference. Now, if you're eating a pretty good bodybuilding diet, it's all clean food, for lack of a better word, it's all bodybuilding foods, then if I switch from sweet potato to rice, I should feel the difference within a day. And I don't know what you mean by difference. Do you mean like in your stomach? Do you mean like in the muscle? Like, if I switch from rice to sweet potato, if your diet is all clean, usually, you should be able to feel a difference in digestion that day or the day after or a couple days after max. You should feel the difference in pumps within a couple days. You're not going to notice a difference in muscle gain for weeks, right? Like, you're not going to know that. But as far as pumps and digestion and all that, should only take days. Shouldn't take a long time. But that's only based on if your diet is pretty normal, or it's the same all the time. Like, my diet's almost always the same. Like, it doesn't really change. I binge here and there, but my overall diet is pretty similar. So if I switch from rice to pasta or whatever, I can feel, or if I switch from red meat to chicken, I can feel if my body's digesting it better, if I got better pump in the gym that day or whatever. Like, I can generally feel it in a couple days. So it shouldn't take long.